it feels like everyone is talking about money, scaling, and success, but almost no one is talking about what it actually costs you emotionally to get there. And I just listened to a recent interview with Tony Robbins, and there was one theme that literally kept resonating with me, especially as a woman, as a mother, and as a heart led business owner. And it wasn't about actually tactics, it was about language, energy, and the difference between building a business from pressure versus building one from purpose. And I want to give you my heart led take on this interview. So grab your cup of whatever's keeping you grounded and let's dive in. Welcome to Heart Led CEO, the podcast for women wellness entrepreneurs who are ready to build, scale, and automate their businesses without sacrificing their soul, sanity, or authenticity. I'm Anacani Walters, a nurse turned entrepreneur, military spouse, first time mama in my 40s, and a recovering burnout survivor who's making it a mission to help heart led women just like you create thriving businesses that really feel good, do good, and give you the freedom that we all deserve. Because here's the thing, you don't have to hustle harder to succeed. You don't have to drown in tech overwhelm or try to do everything alone. And I'm here to give you the strategies, automation tools, and mindset shifts that will help you step fully into that leader, CEO, and impact maker that you are meant to be. If you're ready to grow your business in a way that aligns with your values and your life, you are in the right place. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, 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 my beautiful friends. How are you today? Let's take our shoulders down, hands by your side. Maybe close your eyes. Take a nice inhale in through your nose, into that beautiful belly, and letting it expand into your ribs. And that last little breath into your chest, pulling your shoulders up towards your ears, back down as you exhale. And just become present for me in this very moment. Okay. So there is this interview that is starting to, it's probably going to go viral at some point. And most of you have no idea probably who one of the actual interviewer was, but it's been circulating because Tony Robbins sat down with Alex Hormozi, who is a billionaire. Now, Alex Hormozi is a very data driven, analytical, he's achievement focused, self made billionaire. And I know about him. He's always in my stuff because I'm just in that entrepreneurial space. And he just did a recent book launch, and it was really fascinating to watch. I've been following his journey and learning more and more about him as people have just been diving into his frameworks and methods and trying to do what he's doing, becoming their own self made millionaire. Now, what was fascinating wasn't necessarily the contrast in the interview, but it was really how quickly the conversation moved away from money and full blown deep dive into fulfillment. Because Tony made a point that I think a lot of women in wellness need to hear right now, that if the way you're building your business drains you, no amount of success will suddenly make it feel good later down the line. And it was really a refreshing point of view to hear. Like, he has made in the interview, he corrects Alex Hormozi and says his business has helped his business make over $12 billion. That's crazy. And to hear someone who has made that much money say it's more to do with opportunity versus duty, which I'll talk about in a minute, and talking about self-talk and the way you speak, and understanding that if you're drained now by what you're doing, it is not about this bro marketing mentality of you got to push harder and want it and be able to do whatever it takes and be willing to walk through fire to get it, no amount of success is going to make those feelings feel good or better later. And so there was this part where Alex got to ask basically his questions. And it was this duty versus opportunity, which I think was super, super powerful. And when I say this interview went straight from not what I was expecting it to be to like this deep dive of self fulfillment, I was like, wow. And one of the most powerful reframes that Tony shared in the interview was that words like your duty and obligation are naturally heavy and they drain your nervous system before you even start to do the work that needs to be done. And instead, he really invited us as entrepreneurs to view our work as an opportunity to contribute. So as soon as he said that, I started to think in my mind, like, this is how so many women burn out doing the work that they care so deeply about. This is how women in the wellness space are suffering because when everything becomes our responsibility from clients and all the hats we wear in our entrepreneurial journey for marketing and copywriting or income responsibility, depending on the household that you live in, our bodies start to associate our businesses with that amount of pressure. So when we start to reframe our work as a contribution, it does not mean that you get to bypass reality. And he emphasizes that in the interview. Like he doesn't want us to be delusional, but it does mean choosing language that fuels us instead of depleting us, which led right into the next thing that he pretty much starts to talk about, which is the power of language. For those of us listening, we know the power of self talk. We also know the power of how we talk to our clients, to our family members, to our spouses, to our children. All of it makes a huge difference. And sometimes we have to self reflect because how we are speaking to others is sometimes a reflection of how we feel on the inside. It's just mirrored on the outside. And if I was to, like, for instance, when I teach my yoga class, I am very mindful about the language that I use and how, if I at all choose to correct a student. Instead of pointing a student out, I repeat the same cue 2 or 3 times because what will happen is if they're not paying attention to me, if they're in their own space or they're trying to listen to their body and figure it out, but they're not doing it actually, like they think they're listening, but they're not, eventually it will click that they will notice I am saying the same thing over and over, and it will make everybody feel self-conscious, like, I'm going to self-align and look to see, is she talking about me? Like, clearly there's somebody in the room that's not doing it right. Is it me? Instead of going straight to the person, because then everybody can just take that moment to slow down and align. Everybody will make those little adjustments and you'll see it in the room. Or if I do something and I'm noticing that there's a lot of people in the class that can't do a specific pose or they're struggling. Or when I teach sometimes males in the Marines and we're in something as simple as a cross legged seated position, their knees will be higher than their hips. I know now after teaching for a while that specific clientele, that's as good as it's going to get. And how do I make them feel more comfortable? I will try to make sure that I emphasize that at the beginning of the class. Your goal is not to mimic me, it's to listen to your own body. And if I see too many people looking at other people to see like how they're doing the pose, but it almost is looking like they're maybe criticizing themselves. God, I suck so much at yoga. I cannot do anything. Look at these people who are acrobats, basically. No, no, no. Please do not compare yourself to any. This is your journey. listen to your body. We're all at different spaces. And sometimes I'll out myself, like, I've been doing yoga for however many years. And when I first started, this is like basically what I look like in this pose. So don't judge yourself based on how I look now, especially if you've barely started your yoga journey. That language makes a huge difference. And how we speak to ourselves makes a huge difference. In my stand up paddleboard classes, I commonly have women who have low self esteem, and a lot of them will use humor as a deflective mechanism. And I will be quick to correct them. We do not talk about ourselves like that. If you don't have nothing nice to say about yourself, then you don't need to be saying anything at all. You speak kindness to yourself, at least in my presence. And they will have an uncomfortable laugh, but they will stay quiet the rest of it if it's that bad of an instinct for them, because they know I'm not playing. And so I really love that part of the interview when Tony also called out that about language, and he challenged Alex Hormozi's well-known forget happiness mindset by pointing out that the words we continue to repeat do hypnotize us into whatever it is, to be mindful of and careful. Really, I think he was leaning towards that. Be cautious about what you're saying. And I really feel like that matters for us as heart-led entrepreneurs, because if we're constantly telling ourselves that it's hard and I just have to push through and it's going to get better one day, or I'll rest later, our nervous system is going to start believing us. And success isn't just built with systems, it is also sustained by the emotional state that we continue to live in while we're trying to build our businesses and our lives, our dream lives that we want. Now, there was this part where he tries to close the loop with, I am so passionate about this answer. It was literally the first question in the interview, and he went on and on to all these like gold nuggets. And he talks about the moonshot for contribution. And he's talking about why entrepreneurs plateau after financial success. And it wasn't just in like entrepreneurial financial success. He talks about that prevalently because that was who he was interviewing him and what he was referring to his question about his own entrepreneurial journey. But he even brings it back to the same reason why a lot of the astronauts that were in their 30s who would go fly to the moon, especially when it was like Neil Armstrong, literally become alcoholics and druggies because they've plateaued into what can you do next in terms of fulfillment for success after you've walked on the moon. And it is often because what Tony describes as they lose their why. And he really started to encourage this moonshot goal for contribution, something that can be so meaningful that it actually pulls you forward instead of requiring discipline to drag yourself there. So I listen to a lot of like hardcore, like really aggressive, male driven motivational talks through Amazon. It's called Motive University. Most people that listen to this podcast probably have no idea. I've never heard it, but there's a part of me that does get drive from listening to that. But of course, I'm also very drawn to regulated, soft music, feminine energy. But a lot of the messaging in that Motive University is that you gotta dig deep and you gotta want it so bad that you're willing to walk through fire. And the Marine Corps, pain is, what did they say? Pain is, my husband would know if he was listening right now. Like, pain is like evidence that you're still alive, like that kind of hardcore feeling. But what Tony was basically trying to communicate to Alex Hormozi was that you can't build your business and your life based off of one, feeling obligated like you have to, like it's your duty now because so many people are looking up to you, and start looking at your if you have fulfillment, like you like what you do, it can't be, yeah, it makes me happy, but I feel like now I have to keep doing it because I feel like it's my duty to do it. As opposed to, no, you have to do it because you feel that it is an opportunity that nobody else in the world is going to get to have. And really allow yourself to find that happiness and not tell yourself like that the happiness feeling is weakness, because that is actually, I think, what he was trying to say is that's where the true strength comes from. And I really was captivated by this point in the interview itself. For women, especially in the wellness industry, I really feel like this is powerful and so huge because most of us did not start our businesses to win capitalism. We literally started what we do, and I know you did. You started because you wanted to help, because you wanted to heal people, because you wanted to share your gifts with the world, and you wanted to change something that you lived through yourself, some pain, some whatever, and save other people from having to go through the same thing you did. That desire for contribution is not our weakness. It is our renewable energy source as long as we know how to frame it so that it continues to pull us forward instead of us overriding that and forcing it, and then having that force require us to become more disciplined and literally drag us into our life. Alex Hormozi did share a little bit of his wife's story in the very, very beginning, Layla Hormozi, and her transformation, which I was like, I had no idea that was her backstory about how she had this massive transformation from Tony Robbins physically, emotionally, professionally, after she started immersing herself in his actual work. And I want to pause here because that matters for us as heart led women. Your business is often an extension of your own personal evolution. So when you actually start to shift your environment, change your environment, you start to see that who you're surrounding yourself affects you, your work, everything. And then the right people that you start to surround yourself begin to reflect your next identity of who you want to become. And then you give yourself that final permission to actually dream and grow. What naturally happens? Your business starts to grow. You become so much happier in life. Things start to just naturally happen for you, not because you forced it, but because you became someone new. You stop trying to go for something as opposed to being present in the moment and not letting yourself worry too much about the how and the when, and focus on the what. Final takeaway that I want to leave you with is that Tony didn't dismiss Alex Hormozi's ambition. It is undeniable that he is a brilliant man. He didn't shame his success, and he wasn't shaming success in general. He simply was reminding us that fulfillment is an art and does not need to be the finish line. And that really sat with me because those of you who know that I got diagnosed with my two heart conditions at the age of 25 after I ran my first marathon. And it was like this punch in the gut because I was like, I did my marathon in 4 hours and like 20 something minutes, which is pretty good for a marathon. And if you don't know what a marathon is 26.2 miles. And in my mind, after I finished that first one, it's almost like you get addicted to running. I went from literally hating running and carrying money in my running shorts just in case I had to catch the bus 'Cause I was in bad shape before I started training for my first one to wanting to do it all the time, to actually craving running. It was what I did when I was really stressed. After a hard day, I didn't care if I was coming home at 6, 7 o'clock exhausted. Running actually helped me decompress. And after I got diagnosed, it was really this they were like, "You're never going to be able to run another marathon. You need to stop that right away. We're not even sure we want you to continue to exercise." That's how bad it was. And in my mind, I was like, you can't tell me to not run because it is something that my body and my mind are craving. I'm not going to push myself as hard, but you can't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. I know my own body and I'm living life to its fullest. I don't care. And I went on to run 8 marathons total. The difference between the first one and the ones that followed was that my mindset was clear that it was not about winning, it was about finishing. And I constantly tell myself when I feel like I'm trying to do too much too fast, or I'm feeling anxious because I don't feel momentum as fast as I expected, or what other people are saying that it should be, or whatever, I remind myself, Anacani, it is not a race, it's a marathon. Because then it made me force myself to really think about the marathon in a different way and actually enjoy the people cheering me on, doing the unthinkable, being able to do something that most people never get to experience. They don't have the discipline, the willpower, the desire, the physical ability to do. And it changed so much. That's why I went on to do so many. And I actually was just thinking, I want to do a half marathon before the end of 2026. So if you don't learn how to feel fulfilled now, you won't suddenly feel fulfilled later, no matter how much you make, no matter how much success you have, no matter how many clients you get to heal or people you save or whatever. And Tony Robbins says that. He realized at one point that he had been giving meals to millions of people, like through his organization and his businesses and things. They had been able to give so many millions of meals to people in need who are homeless and children and whatever, based of something that was inspired from his childhood of not having food during Thanksgiving and having somebody drop food off so him and his family could eat on Thanksgiving. And it sparked this, wow, like humanity isn't bad. Strangers actually do care. And it changed his perspective on life. And that was his pay it forward. But he was disconnected from that. So he didn't feel the full fulfillment of it. And that's what we need to make sure. That is what being present means. Letting go of the past, whatever happened yesterday, 10 years from now, whatever, you still have the opportunity. Today, I talk about it all the time. Forever is today. I have seen so many beautiful souls get taken in what I would believe as too early, but everything happens for a reason. I had to hold on to those beliefs because otherwise I probably would not have made it as long as I did in my career field as a nurse, believing anything else. And from all of what we've just talked about, I want you to take this as your opportunity, as your permission slip. I want you to be able to give yourself the permission to build with grace instead of grind. I want you to be able to choose opportunities for your work over obligations. And I want you to let contribution, not pressure, to be your compass. Because there's plenty of times where I think to myself, I've spent so many years learning and training and so much money in my to get in through my nursing. How can I walk away from it? And a lot of people are like, you should go back into nursing. You should go back and go to med school. You should go back and do something in the medical field. You were so good at it. And my response is, just because you were good at something doesn't mean it's what you're supposed to do. And if this perspective really resonated with you, feel free to save this episode. Share it with someone else who's building something super meaningful, but they're tired of doing it. Sometimes the shift isn't in our strategy, it is in the story that we're telling ourselves while we're actually working. You're doing amazing. I know you are. You just have to close your eyes and actually be present. Take those deep breaths and really listen. As always, continue to be you, continue to be beautiful, continue leading from your heart, and I will catch you in the next episode. All right, beautiful. That's a wrap on today's episode. But before you go, let's talk about something really important. You are not just another entrepreneur trying to figure things out alone. You are a wave leader, someone whose work is meant to create real impact, touch the lives of others, and make this world better. And I want you to know you don't have to do it alone. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd love to keep this energy going inside of my free Facebook community, Empower Her Biz Collective. It's where we take these conversations deeper with live trainings, tech walkthroughs, and real heart-centered support from other women wellness entrepreneurs who really get it. So if you're ready for community, clarity, and support as you build your own business with heart and ease, I'd invite you to come and join us. You'll find the link in the show notes. And hey, if you love today's episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review if you feel inclined, and share this with a fellow heart-led women entrepreneur so that we can build this movement together. Until next time, keep leading with heart.